Yeah.
Hello, and welcome to My Time, My Life with Trinette Faint. On this season of my podcast, I'll be talking to a variety of people, from creative entrepreneurs to business owners to writers to entertainers and others, about being bold and courageous, overcoming obstacles, and taking risks, all in the name of chasing dreams and building a career. I hope their stories will inspire you on your own journey. Thanks for listening. My guest today is Emmy award-winning producer and voice actor Georgette Pierre. Georgette has been in the entertainment business for over a decade, working in TV production at MTV, Nickelodeon, where she won an Emmy, on Netflix's My Next Guest Needs No Introduction with David Letterman, and various award shows and commercials. Georgette served as the first sideline reporter for the inaugural 2018 NBA2K League, followed by a stint in Miami as a radio host for the Rickey Smiley Morning show. Georgette is a creator and producer of the Black Nuanced podcast, the web series #Dear Georgette, and the interview series After Dark with Georgette Pierre. She has bylines on various publications, including Entertainment Weekly, VH1, MTV RapFix, now MTV Hip Hop, Blavity, and Killer Boombox. She recently wrapped hosting duties on Emerson College's podcast, Making It Big in 30 Minutes, and is a creative producer consultant and voice actor through her company imprint, MYS Productions. Georgette, quite a resume. Hello, how are you?
Tree! That's my nickname for Trinette, for those that don't know from grad school.
It is.
Oh, yeah. Every time I hear that read back to me, it sounds funny. I'm like, did I do all that? Maybe I didn't do enough. It never feels like enough. It doesn't feel like enough.
And you still do more. You've come a long way, baby, since whatever that class was we were in.
Oh, I know, because I was eating blueberries to stay awake, and I would offer it to people. I was like, these are great antioxidants.
Blueberries in your Fuji water.
I love my Fiji, honey.
Gosh, and I'll just never forget that presentation you did, the Kool-Aid.
Oh my gosh, what was that presentation? Oh, the professor was shout out to Professor Sylvia Hodge. Who was our professor. Yes. Okay. Uh-huh. But what was it cool? Oh gosh, I don't remember that.
But when you were presenting the Kool-Aid man, because I was the only person in the class who
that knew what that was.
Yeah.
That damn sugar water. Yeah. Shit, that damn sugar water, boy.
Well, let's get into it. Let's start by talking about your Emmy. Tell me what you won that for, and what was that like? How did that feel?
It's funny when you hear about these things, you're not necessarily like in the place to always receive them. And so, and then sometimes like the thing that gets you this thing that everyone's like, oh my gosh, you're like, what? You don't know what the hell I had to go through or what was going on to receive that. And so I remember I had reached a breaking point in TV production. I was at Nickelodeon, and that same year, it was 2018. So I was working on a Black History Month campaign. Shout out to my mentor, my former boss, Chelsea. And she, by this time, we had worked on that campaign, and it got submitted, and I didn't know it got submitted for a daytime Emmy. So by this time, I leave to go to Miami, and I'm in Miami from June, like the end of June on to the following year of 2019. And I remember I get a text message from my former colleague, and I like to call him Josh Kosh, shout him out, because I wouldn't have known had he not texted me. And he was like, Georgette, did you know you won an Emmy? I said, I did what? And I'm literally in the booth at the radio station, confused. And so he texted to me like I was doing the morning show for Rickey Smiley. So I had to be there from 5 a.m. to 10 a.m. I was the local morning host. And so I did the local talk breaks for Miami while they were doing the show from Atlanta. And he sent me the screenshot. And I was like, can I cuss on here? I'm like, because I'm like, I can cuss? Okay, great.
I don't care.
So I was like, I look at the screenshot. I was like, oh my fucking gosh. I said, wait a minute, I won an Emmy. And at this point, I found out 2019, like when I was like literally done with being in Florida. And I said, I'm about to fucking leave this place. Let me get the fuck up out of here. Cause because there was so much that had happened working there, and the radio station experience wasn't what I thought it was. And so when I saw that Emmy, the reason why I shout out my former boss is she made it a point to list my name as the list of people that worked on the campaign, because what Nickelodeon did, which was so gracious, they bought everybody a statue. They don't give you statues for every team member. They'll give you one, and then you have to pay for the other ones. And so, had she not done that and advocated for me, I don't know if I would have that statue. But then that was 2019. I got that Emmy for a 2018 campaign. And it took me like another 2 years to pull that Emmy out the box, like to actually stand it up. Because I had imposter syndrome around it. I didn't think I earned it. I it didn't kick in. And even still, it doesn't kick in. And I remember one of my guy friends in LA, he was just like, girl, if I was you, I'd be wearing that Emmy around my neck like a necklace. I was like, I ain't doing all of that.
Put it on your dashboard in your car.
Yeah, but yeah, it was a Nickelodeon campaign, and from my understanding, they hadn't, that was the first time they won a campaign, I think, for Black History Month.
Okay.
So it was cool. It was cool, and so I want more.
Girl. Well
Thank
deserved.
You.
I love that I can say I'm friends with an Emmy winner. So go win another one so I can say it again.
I'm ready. And that I want, and I'm manifesting winning an Emmy for my work in the scripted space, whether it's TV writing, producing, all of that jazz. So
you got it. You were on your path, girl. I know what's gonna happen.
I
know it. Speaking of your TV writing work, tell us about your work in TV production. What about some of the projects you worked on and Letterman's Netflix show?
Yeah, I'll keep this one brief because that journey. I didn't even choose TV production. I remember just being annoyed that TV hosting opportunities weren't coming my way. And so I was like, fuck it. I'm just going to figure this out, right? Like I'm going to get into TV and I'm going to do my own thing and create my own thing. So I started in 2012 at VH1. And then I just kind of worked the ranks from 2012 to 2000 and from 2012 on, right? In and out.
Yeah.
And so by the time I got to worked at VH1 and their short form promo department, which meant we were creating commercials for all the TV shows on VH1, went over to Nickelodeon, did the same thing, plus whatever tentpoles came about. So my team was the production team. So we had to travel to be on these shoots to create the commercials for whatever we had coming out. But again, on the short form side, which was the commercial side. By the time I left Nickelodeon or got laid off during the pandemic, I was just freelancing, doing various things. And so, I felt like I had learned all these tools. It was called Viacom at the time. I had learned all these tools to create my own stuff. So Dear Georgette came out. That I took a stab at that. Then I did After Dark with Georgette Pierre because I wanted to be the next Chelsea Lately or Chelsea Handler. Really enjoyed her late night TV show. And I was just like, I want a Black woman. What about a Black woman in this space? Even though I'm not a comedian, I was like, I could do this. And so the line producer that my former boss was just friends with and she had introduced me to and that I had worked with, he landed the line producer opportunity with the production company that was producing my next guest. And so he keeps a tight team around him. And so because he's the homie, he was like, well, Georgette, we're about to gear up and shoot these New York episodes. Wherever Letterman was going, Letterman went wherever the talent was. So there was 3 episodes in New York, which was Cardi B, Kevin Durant, and Ryan Reynolds. And so he put me on all 3. He hired me as a production manager to be on all of them. And so that was my first on-screen credit. And I was like, ooh, I want more. So it was essentially just the years of working in production and then just knowing him in that journey that led me to that.
Right, girl. I'm so proud of you. You've just
Thank you.
Hanging in the trenches, doing your thing.
Man, trying. I am working through it.
Don't really get how tough it can be.
Yeah.
The struggles, the challenges and stuff. So I applaud you for keeping on.
Thank you.
Tell me a bit about some of the challenges you had and getting to the place where you are now. What has your journey overall been like?
It's still the journey that I am moving through. I mean, I think a lot of times when you are on this journey of hopes and dreams, it was this tweet that I saw that was just like, no one tells you how tired it gets trying to pursue your hopes and dreams or having hopes and dreams, right? And I thought that was funny because your spirit is just calling for you to do the thing that you feel like you were brought here to do, but there's no blueprint to get that stuff done, right? There's no blueprint to accomplish that. And so on this journey, you're encountering the battles of people's projections of limitations onto you, their fear onto you. But even then, like some of that stuff you're internalizing yourself. And so a lot of my battles were internal, and they still are, from anywhere with me shrinking, with me limiting myself, with me not necessarily always feeling like something can happen, to me just being exhausted because of the journey and how long the journey has been. And I want to shout,
exhausting.
It's absolutely exhausting. But the one thing that was reframed to me, and I want to shout her out, Felicia Pride, super dope Black woman, writer, director, producer. She said to me, she was like, what does it feel like to settle in, right? Like, if you know this is your career path, you're going to be doing this for the next 30 to 40 years, why not frame it as you settling in? Because, and so how I took that was, instead of me trying to feel like I'm getting to the next thing and to the next thing and to the next thing, everything that you do is literally just on the path of you settling in more and more and more to the thing that you're called to do. And so what I had shared with her and sharing with you was, you know, I was clear and was told my path, spiritually told my path was storytelling. And I am on a journey to tell nuanced stories and that show the humanity of Black millennial women through various lenses of TV, film, digital audio, print. And I was like, man, Georgette, what does it look like to settle in, right? And so with me settling in, that also requires me to stop settling. And so I'm working through that.
Girl.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Preach, girl.
So
I love that. And it is such a journey, and you have to get so comfortable with being uncomfortable throughout the whole process.
And I had
there never seems to be an end to it, because the goalpost is always moving. Something's always changing. You know? But it's really about staying true to what your spirit is telling you, and to keep going despite roadblock after roadblock, challenge after challenge and stuff. You know, and seeing it and seeing the vision. You know, we've talked about this a lot over the years. You know, and we're not trying to do two totally dissimilar things. I think just in like different ways. Yeah. But it is a mountain. It is a mountain. And especially if you're not born into a family that has lots of connections where you have this access, you know, we just putting one foot in front of the other and going for it, building our own journeys.
Yeah, I mean, you're essentially building your shit from scratch. And being okay with you having to like change this brick. Maybe it's not brick for this next layer. Maybe it's something else, or maybe it's like, you know, they always say like, you know, you're building the plane while flying it. I don't know if you've heard that analogy. And so you have to be okay and trusting that much. And I am working, I mean, like, even before we got on, I remember having a conversation out loud. Like sometimes, like my conversations with God will be out loud. Like as if God was in the room. You know, God is with us, but for those that believe in a higher power. And I was just like, God, thank you for the wake up call. That was like the equivalent of someone throwing ice on your face if you were sleeping to wake you up. Because I have been moving through some loud transition. And the one thing that I'm constantly being called to do, Trinette, is to stand more in my sovereignty, have more confidence, stop shrinking, stop trying to fit my round peg into a square hole, right? Like I keep thinking this is the best that I can do with certain things that are presented to me. And it's like, no, it's not. you think it is, and you keep saying it is, and you keep moving that direction. And I'm grateful for for God in my ancestral court, because Tree, like, they're always like, we got to do this for her, right? So something will happen for them to clear the roadblocks for me to get it, and they're requiring me to get to a place where I get it instantaneously and more consistently.
Girl, must be Sunday morning right here. Tell me about your podcast, Black and Nuanced. What was the inspiration behind that? What did you think was missing in the podcast space?
You know, I wasn't even thinking about what was missing in the podcast space. I missed radio. And so, you know, radio, I started radio at Norfolk State. I went to Norfolk State University in Norfolk, Virginia, and HBCU for undergrad. And that's where I got my itch for radio. And then when I went to Emerson for grad school, the radio station was just much more zhuzhed up in a way that I had never seen. So that was like my playground. And so when I left, I thought, oh yeah.
Shout out to ERS. What?
Yes, absolutely. D in the house. D Simpson. He's now the general manager. And he was a great mentor of mine. But when I was there, I was like, oh man, I'm going to be this big radio personality. Everyone's going to want me. We're going to do the thing. But when you left, like, there was no radio, right? So that's when like internet radio was popping up and all that other stuff. And so because I had done radio for as many years, then I started dabbling in internet radio, and then podcasting started emerging. When I was leaving, before I was leaving New York to go to South Florida, I remember wanting to do a podcast, and I was like playing around with names, and Black and Nuanced came up. And I remember seeing a sign. I'm not going to say where I saw it, but I remember it said Black people aren't monolithic. And I think, I don't know if I saw that in the same year, but when I thought about it, I was like, man, Black and Nuanced, and we're going to do this. And so my friend at the time, shout out to Chris, we were going to do the podcast together. And then I ended up moving to Miami. And so I just did the podcast. But every season kept evolving. Like, I was still trying to figure it out, but I knew that Black and Nuanced. How many seasons
did you ultimately do?
I'm still going, but I had done 3 seasons. All right. Took a 2-year hiatus from 2021, jumped back in 2023, but I came back with more intention and more of a story and a narrative because of my goal of getting this developed, using my podcast as a platform to get developed into something else as far as IP is concerned. But yeah, Black and Nuanced was just, I'm like, Georgette, you could do a lot with this. The name is popping, right? Yeah. And so what do we want this to be? And so season 4 is out now. Season 5, we're in pre-pro. Shout out to Wise and the Indie Creative Network as well, because he's my co-producer.
Right on. Okay. Who or what was your inspiration growing up? Who can I thank
Queen Latifah
for the Georgette that I'm friends with today?
So let's talk about Queen Latifah real quick. Don't you talk about my queen, okay? I love me some Queen Latifah. But it was a myriad of people, right? So it was Queen Latifah. It was Lauryn Hill when I thought I was going to be a rap artist, right? Or a hip hop artist. I wanted to be the next Lauryn Hill. My moniker on
I can totally see that.
I used to always hear it. And so it's funny because my moniker, or like my name, my artist name on campus at Norfolk State was Brown Skin, spelled BRNSKN, 2 words. So it was like Brown, like I used to write songs, Brown Skin is her name, and so, but every moment it evolved.
Is the India song your theme song?
No, it was Brown Skin Lady by Black Star.
Okay.
Yes, but I wanted to like create an intro with India Irie and Brown Skin Lady. And so, but beyond like starting with those two, like when I was younger, as I started getting older, the people that were my inspiration were peers. I started becoming peers, right? They were my mentors, or people that were just with me every step of the journey. I mean, the mentors varied, whether it was in college, whether it was a spiritual mentor, whether it was someone that was my boss, and then even people that I started meeting in the industry. I was like, shit, well, she don't take no for an answer. So why am I telling myself no, right? Just people that just had this wealth of experience. Like, I mean, I can run the gamut of so many names. But a lot of them are behind the scenes, unless you know. And so, as I got older, it was less celebrities and more peers and or former bosses, that were my inspiration, or just people that I just felt I was in awe of because of like just I'm like, yeah, I'm seeing someone do this in real time, and that is what I personally needed to continue going.
Right. Have you ever had a chance to meet Queen Latifah?
Child, so yes and no.
Okay. Gotta
yes
hear this.
No, but I can't wait to meet Queen for real. So the running joke used to be when I was younger, my mom and my mom and dad, they're from Trinidad. My mom's from Tobago, my dad's from Trinidad. So they didn't really know much about hip hop music, and they would call it hip hop, right? They was like, what is this hip hop? And I'm like, what? What do you mean? What is this hip hop? What? Because I was, man, 90s hip hop, I still lived there. And so I used to listen to Black Rain, Queen Latifah's album Black Rain. And I remember my mom, like when I was like, there was like age, like, you know, you didn't want to take baths, you know, and your parents would still give you baths.
Yeah.
And I remember my mom, she taunted Queen Latifah in front of me. I didn't like this. She was just like, well, if you were Queen Latifah's daughter, you would get in the bath. I ran to that bathroom so fast,
my God.
but I was so upset. So anywho, we were working. So fast forward, VH1 was doing a tent pole. I think it was VH1 Divas, and they were honoring.
Tell everybody what a tent pole is.
Oh, a tent pole is like an award show or a major event, right? So a major event in the programming of a network. And so, you know, the Grammys would be considered a tent pole. The Oscars would be considered a tent pole. And so Queen Latifah, it was Queen Latifah and three other Black women. And I'm ashamed that I don't remember all of them, but we were basically doing the photo shoot or the commercial shoot for that. And I remember Queen Latifah walked in the room and I was like, ooh, Queen, it's the Queen. So I had to go back to the office because I wasn't really assigned to that shoot. But she was out there, I think, with one of her team members. And I told her, I was like, Queen Latifah, I am such a fan. She was like, thank you. And I didn't want to go in on my story about what my mom did to me when I was younger. But like that was the closest I was able to get to saying hello to the Queen. So I look forward to like communing with her in a real way, from like hoping I get to work with her. But yeah, Queen, ooh,
child, you hear that, Queen Latifah? Oh, we got a collaboration right here, Georgette.
Yes.
She's had a fantastic career. It's been really inspiring to watch her.
Yeah, absolutely. Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Tell me, what are some of the biggest risks involved in being a creative entrepreneur?
There's going to be points where you're going to doubt yourself, and sometimes that doubt can be can almost operate as quote unquote like your mind reasoning with you on the decision that you should make. You know, I think it's the fact that it's just a nonlinear path, and sometimes people want structure. People being me. Right. And there's no guarantee beyond you believing that you're actually going to accomplish the thing that you want to accomplish. But you wanting the thing has to be enough, more than enough to keep you going. And so you're constantly having to check in with yourself. And a lot of times that can lead to going in and out of, depression is a strong word, but you're going to have some very low lows at times. And even your highs can be low, right? But you have to know and find ways to stay grounded. And I think that was a challenge for me. And I'm still navigating it, just having grounding tools. What keeps me grounded? What can I constantly go back to? What can I be reminded of? Shit, I didn't do this today. Okay. Georgette, just let's do it again tomorrow. Let's figure out what this thing is. What can you do less of if it's taking up more of your time? You know, is it just getting off of social media? Is it, so this other thing too is the people that are on your journey initially may not be there during your journey and after. And I'm not even going to say after your journey, but at the end of the first part of the path that you are on. And so there's going to be some grieving in between that, and you're not realizing that you're also grieving, and it's the caterpillar to a butterfly, and you don't get to control how you are developing and evolving into that beautiful butterfly. And that's the piece that I think a lot of people aren't always prepared for, including myself. And you have to be okay with that because your purpose is the thing. And that has to guide you.
It's kind
be
of
your North
like,
Star.
friendships and stuff. Like some people are there at the beginning, but as you, evolve and do other things, you will meet other people along the way. And the people you start with won't necessarily be the people that you finish
But it's
with.
hard. I don't think people
Yeah.
like, we don't talk about it as it's hard because you're just like, wait, I got iced because of what? But me and this person never talked about what happened, or oh man, damn, like this was someone that I used to talk to, periodically or like majority of my days, and then all of a sudden Spirit's like, yeah, but we need you to spend energy elsewhere. You were spending too much energy here. We need you over here. And if that means that we have to pull them out of your life because you don't have the heart to do it, then we're going to do that. I've had to have some real conversations. I'm like, God, ancestors, what's going on? And they're like, no, we have a bigger purpose for you. And yes, it's not going to always feel comfortable, and you have to be okay with that.
Yep.
So
I just want to say that I have my conversations with Avery in here most often.
Avery's her dog, y'all. Avery is still kicking, okay? Avery is still kicking.
She laying right there, taking another nap.
Oh, man. Avery.
Tell me, Georgette, where'd you get the confidence to pursue your dreams? Because it's one thing to dream the dream, because everybody has a dream, right? But to really be like, you know what? I'm going to go for it. And to just keep at it, to stay in it. That is something that a lot of people don't have. Or they stop after first time it gets uncomfortable, or after the first failure or something.
This might sound airy-fairy. I wouldn't even name it as confidence because it doesn't feel like confidence. There is a default setting for whatever reason that I am not able to turn off that won't allow me to quit. I have thought about it many times over, but there is something that it's almost like you get enough battery recharge to keep going.
You get enough validation, another hit, and you kind of keep moving.
There is a hit that happens, figuratively speaking. I just knew when I was guided to audition for radio back at Norfolk State, I was like, oh man, okay, so I'm like, not until later on did I realize the voice that I was insecure about was part of God's purpose for me. I mean, memorable voice. People used to ask me if I sung. I mean, I've even gotten some like off-kilter comments about my voice. But I won't ever forget Amari Hardwick, shout out to him. When Power came out, fucking loved Power, like the original series before they started doing the universe. And I interviewed Power season 1. I interviewed Amari on the phone. No one was like, this is for VH1.com. And no one had at the time, like a lot of people weren't watching the show at the time, but I was like, what do you mean? Like, yeah, I want to interview Amari. Amari and I did the interview on the phone, season 1. I interviewed him in person, season 2. He was like, oh, I remember you. I remember your voice. This man never saw me. Had been a year. And he remembered my voice. And I was like, damn. Well, one, I can't run away from it, right? So if someone hears me so people hear me before they see me. So the nudging and the things, like it's almost like the bricks were being laid as I was walking, or you started seeing the next step as you were going down the stairwell. And I just started following that. And I just kept following it, and I kept following it. And yes, I've made decisions where it's like, oh shit, she detoured, bring her ass back, right? But I didn't detour. I detoured enough to gain more tools to keep going, right? And maybe I'm walking a little bit faster, right? And with a little bit more, yeah. And so it's I can't even give it confidence. Like I can't tell you that I'm always confident. I'm just not able. There's just something in my vessel that won't allow me to quit.
Yeah, I understand that. I think we talked about that like a month or two ago.
Yeah,
how
it's
we
not
do
there.
These things because it's just inherently a part of us. Like I can't stop writing and trying to do all these other creative things, because if I stop, that would feel disingenuous to who I am.
Oh man, yeah. But here's the skinny. I was like, oh, if I was to do something else, there's nothing in my mind that would give me joy beyond the thing that I am pursuing.
Right.
And that's why I'm like,
Right.
yeah, I can't even work this job if I even wanted to. Right.
Right.
So,
Right.
yeah.
I feel you. I feel you. All right. Couple final questions for you, Georgette. Tell us, what are you reading right now?
Because I don't know when this is going to come out because I'm probably being on something else afterwards. But interestingly enough, I'll tell you a couple of things that I'm reading because, child, I'll be triple fisting books and I have no business trying to read 3 books at the same time. But I was reading Warrior of the Light by Paulo Coelho. It was a recommendation, or there was this string of interviews this actor was doing that I really admired. And that was one of the books he was reading. And I'm really into those types of books, right? Like Paulo Coelho's series, The Alchemist, and all that other stuff. So Warrior of the Light is literally just every page is a different passage to this warrior that is on their journey to becoming who they're supposed to become. So Warrior of the Light, Survival of the Thickest by Michelle Buteau. Because I wanted to actually just read the series, read the book, even though she adapted it into a Netflix series. 2, I also wanted to add more book of essays by Black women to my repertoire because I too am going to write a book of essays. And so the one thing that they tell you with nonfiction books is like one question they ask you in your book proposal is what other books like exist in your genre, and they want you to be able to name it, the strengths and the weaknesses and all that other stuff. And so, and then lastly, that the book that is on me right now, and I preface this by saying I am not Beehive, but there is a book of essays about Beyonce called Queen Bee, and was popping off on Instagram and somebody, or Twitter or Instagram, and somebody was like, they recommended, because I think Renaissance ticket sales were going on, all that other stuff. And they were like, if you're going to read a book, like if you're seeking inspiration, definitely get your hands on this book. So I was like, fuck it, let me get this book. Because again, as a creative, as an artist, as a, someone on your creative path, sometimes you just need to look for inspiration in various places. Exactly. And so I was like, well, let me read this essay or this book of, essays about Beyonce and everyone's take on her and how she just who she is as this magnanimous person. And I have to admit, like, again, it's just interesting to hear the perspective of people's critique on her art, but even how they interpreted it, right? And it also gave me perspective as someone that is pursuing my own way of doing things, just to really kind of see her path in a different way, right? Like, I don't know if she's ever going to come out with a memoir, but I feel like this book of essays by different people really just kind of put me in a different headspace. And it was like, I couldn't stop reading it. Like I'm in LA right now as we're recording this. And so I'll be on the metro reading it out. It's just because everyone's essay was just completely different. Some people were like fangirling over her. And then there's some people who are like, she benefits from certain privileges because it's like, and so they're going in and they're talking about Lemonade and they're talking about, what some of her. So it runs the gamut. So if anyone's looking for some type of inspiration or just different pulls of just works of art of people that are living in the I guess the pop culture lexicon, I would recommend just reading this just for shits and giggles.
Okay, I love that. All right, and my last question for you is, what piece of music inspires you?
Oh man, I will have to say, and I'm going to hit you with genres. I'm still living in 90s hip hop. I love me a good 90s hip hop playlist. I live there. I also have been dabbling in they call it alternative R&B, but there's some tracks that exist from different artists. I mean, I like Being Surprised. And then, when I am looking for that, just like that plug, that recharge sometimes in a different way, I'll go back and listen to Calypso, soca music. I call it my Island Tings. Or Island Ting playlist on Spotify. Yeah. So it's Caribbean music or soca calypso. It's 90s hip hop. It's alternative R&B. And every now and then, maybe something that's out on the radio. But I'm like, I'm too old for this. I'm like, what are they saying? Fuck that bitch. What? Shut the fuck up. I'm like, what? Shut the fuck up. Like, who's saying that in a song as a lyric? And why are we listening to it? Like, don't get me started on this music that is out today. Child.
Today.
Oh my gosh, seriously. So I have definitely stayed far away from that. But I know people love a good wretched song. I don't call it ratchet, it's wretched, okay? So yeah.
Well, I'm all vinyl mostly here at home.
Okay. Yeah.
A mix of like everything from classical.
Throw in some jazz. Don't get me twisted on the jazz. I love me some jazz too. Yeah.
Yeah. Georgette, thank you so much for coming on. This was
you're welcome.
So much fun.
Yeah.
Such a throwback to our days.
Yes.
In New York
you for having
and in
me.
Boston. Yep.
Yeah. Thank you for having me.
All right. And I will put all your links in the show notes so people know how to find you.
Yeah.
Jazz. And, continued success on your journey.
Thank you. You too. You're in your next act. You're settling in. What does it feel like to settle in, Tree?
Feel like I got some sand in my shoes, trying to get it out, trying to get it back in, But
I love that.
Stepping.
Yeah, you got to smooth out the sand. Shit, she gonna be with you for a minute.
Pebbles out the way, right?
Just smooth it out.
Yep.
I love that.
All right, everyone. Thank you for listening to this episode of My Time, My Life. And until next time, take care. Bye. My Time, My Life with Trinette Faint is a Floor 51 production.